And I think there's this element of like everything being organic and natural that really changed the game for me, at least in my perspective of, how do we move the company forward? Hi, guys, and welcome back to Interact's Grow podcast. I'm your host, Jasmine Solana. And as always, so great to be with you all here today. This week we have Damaris and Jackie. Ladies, hello, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
We have a super fun topic for you guys this week because we're nearing the end of the year. We thought it would be super fun to talk a little bit about what we think the marketing trends will be in 2024. So here is our marketing predictions for 2024. Let's go.
What tarot card do you guys want? I can see the future. I guess I can start us off just to start dialogue. Like I have noticed, and this is just personally, like off work stuff that I'm a TikTok aficionado, and I like to go on social medias. I have seen a lot of like webinar offerings, a lot of like join this like live session for XYZ, whether it's like leadership or something specific that a business is offering. And it's been coming up on my feed a lot of times. So I think that that's just really going to continue to expand for next year, only because I've been seeing it so much this end of year that I'm like, they're probably going to try to like really focus and ham in on that next year, which I would find very interesting.
It's really funny you say that, Damaris, because I was just on a call earlier today with Kartra, one of our integration partners, and they said exactly that. So we just did our Flowdesk launch, and we didn't do a webinar. So I thought in talking to Kartra, if we do a little bit more marketing about the direct integration, that was his idea. So what could we do in terms of a webinar funnel to talk about that direct integration, getting it set up and all that stuff?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, last time I remember webinars being a really big thing was probably somewhere around like 2018 to 2019. And then in 2020, obviously the pandemic hit and that changed a lot. But it started to kind of die down.
Yeah.
After that, like I think like people wanted more community. They wanted more like conversations and connection. They wanted less of the sort of, okay, let me hop on a webinar and do some self-learning. But that's interesting that now you're kind of seeing like maybe it's coming back.
Yeah. Even to expand to that, which maybe this is another prediction somebody else wants to talk about, but I've seen like a lot of more like networking events or like social networking events coming up, like, like whether it's like a specific like Latino market or like this market from a university or medical or whatever it is, right? There's been a lot of more of like, come and network, see what we're all about, come and check us out, which I find super interesting because for a couple of years we were all just like in a bubble, just like at home, not wanting to do anything. And now it's just like people want to be out there talking to everybody and socializing and networking, and I just think that that's just going to like really kind of explode next year.
It also aligns with what we did with our own community. Like we started it because people needed to be able to get together online, but then that sort of ended because now people want to meet up in person. So I also see a bunch of new live in-person events. We sponsored our first event this year back in September, and we're already signing up to do another one in January. And it's really exciting because I think when you're online, you got to be quick and to the point and get people what they need, which is maybe what a webinar is delivering because it can be condensed into a very specific point, which then maybe puts you into a funnel to get the other information that you might need. Whereas you don't necessarily need the online community aspect, at least for us being a software, right? But the in-person connection was huge. The people that we were talking to in Nashville when we attended that live event.
I totally agree with that. It felt I can't even describe the feeling of connecting with people on a different level that wasn't just like, well, here's my business and here's what I do. Okay, like that's great. I'll email you every once in a while. You really felt like you were building connections and building relationships with people while you were there in person. Um, Online, I don't think that would have happened for months, maybe, or like calls later where you talk about, maybe stuff that's going on in your life or things that you've been doing, maybe like things that are coming up for you. I wonder how like this idea of conversations other than work will actually make work more productive.
Hmm. Well, I think at a basic level, now we're going into like psychology. Let's not go there. But
Or maybe let's.
yeah, like, humans are built for connection, right? We need that social cues. We need to build relationships and connections with people. Otherwise, it just kind of doesn't make us human. So it's interesting that because there was such a lack of during the pandemic, right? And there's a lot of like mental health issues, a lot of anxiety issues, a lot of things that were going on. We're slowly trying to bloom back to what it looked like. Maybe not the same intensity, because I think that before the pandemic, it was like at 150% of like time, 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 go, go, go. But it's definitely starting to shine through again. The social aspect, the building networks, that sense of community, but in a different way. And I think in a way, for a company like ours specifically, right, we're software, I think it could be very successful for us because we're a small company. So we have to
Mhm.
throw our names out there. We have to, network. We have to build partnerships. Back to you, Jackie. You're so good at socializing and talking to people. So it's a very interesting and exciting thing next year to see what will happen.
You guys, I also kind of feel like with in-person stuff, there was this point when travel and like the world was opening back up where I think people forgot how to interact with each other in
Yeah.
person, like with people who weren't in your COVID bubbles. And maybe why this is now trending back upwards is that we had a couple years to get back into that groove of being in person and talking to people that we might not know or that we only know through work. Um, and next year, it's just going to take off.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the exciting thing too about being able to have like very organic conversations about anything that might come up when you're in person is that you can still relate those things back to business at a later point. Or maybe it gives you an idea in the future, or something comes up in the future and you're like, oh, I had this conversation with Ron in Nashville, right? And he was
Mm-hmm.
talking about doing all these things in the national park. And I don't know, maybe that prompts something or builds a connection with a different customer that we have that we can connect him with, different softwares that he's using and how other Interact customers can use that. So it wasn't like we sat down with Ron in Nashville and was like, hey, Ron, what are all the ways that we could work together? No, it was like we went out to the bar one night to like a honky tonk in Nashville and everybody just had a good time. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
really talk about work. We just became friends as people. And then I got to learn about how they go all over the United States and they see all these different national parks. And this is how they're using their quizzes. And it made me, as a representative of Interact, understand so much more what he was trying to do without him actually telling me what he was trying to do, if that makes sense. Because sometimes it can be kind of hard to talk about yourself and give your elevator pitch and all of that. But being at a live in-person event, or where it makes sense for you to have an online community where you foster these conversations, right? You can really get into, I don't know, just I think such better content because it's so much more authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This reminds me of marketing like a couple decades ago when big companies used to actually like house somebody in a state and then they had to go to like door by door or business by business and try to like get their business, establish a relationship, take them out to dinner,
Mm-hmm.
try to get to know their family, because we didn't have internet at the time. So that's like a lot of legwork. Now it's like, well, we have the internet. So how do we use that and then leverage like the social aspect of it, right? And so it's like combining the two things. And it always goes back to just like human connection, just like getting to know somebody, it's super interesting.
I feel like it adds to, that concept of being present and showing up as a real person. So, especially for us as a software company, it was valuable for us to show up and show people like, hey, we're not just a keyboard, or like keyboard warriors behind the computer. We are actually real people, and we are here to help. And I think that will go a long way for entrepreneurs who are trying to get the word out there about their businesses, is to join these in-person events, whether it's networking or at a conference, they're sponsoring and so on. Because it's showing people like, hey, not only do I add value as an expert in my field, but I can relate to you as an actual person.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think of moms. Moms have such a good connection, which you could be in any industry, any niche, but like they just connect with each other because they get the struggles and the hardships and the love and all of that. So, I mean, and there's so many different examples of that, but yeah, I think the same thing. And I just want to say, I can't even tell you how many customers I've talked to over the years that they like Interact, but when they find out we're a team of 10, now I think 13 or 14, they're like, what? How are just 10 people doing this? They think it's so much cooler of a product because they get to know our team a little bit more. I can't tell you how many times that happened. Had
Yeah.
nothing to
More
do with the
personal.
features, nothing to do with the actual software, but had to do with the story behind how our co-founders got started in college and how they, employ just 10 people to help thousands and thousands of customers and pump out all of this content and all the things that we get to do.
Right, right. I agree. Jackie, how do you think, like, because Damaris had mentioned this earlier, so I want to call it out, but in-person events, you're able to build these relationships. How do you think that will affect partnerships in 2024?
So we use PartnerStack, and they have this saying on their website of building the right ecosystem for you. And I think that partner ecosystems are going to be the up and coming trend in the next year, if they're not maybe already. And what I mean by that is, rather than just being like, oh, Jess, you could use a quiz, maybe your audience could use a quiz. Let's just me and you connect and work on a few things to help your customers out, or our mutual customers. Whereas an ecosystem would involve all three of us or maybe more people. For example, Interact, plus we just integrated with Flowdesk, plus Jenna Kutcher is using Flowdesk, and other softwares that she's using, other people who are using both platforms. Can those influencers partner together because they're both using the same softwares? So I think that's the goal moving forward for our program, is how do we build up a bigger ecosystem to really all empower and help each other, as opposed to just these one-off transactions of you're promoting Interact and I don't know, maybe I backlink back to you or support you in some other way, or just maybe it's the reward, right? Like you're promoting Interact, you get a reward, that's the end of it. But I think especially with in-person conversations, because you can get deeper into who you are, things that you like, how it relates to your business, you can use that to build the ecosystem even better. Also, people like to work with people who they like. So if you're at these in-person events and you're making all these new friends, and people can come across as different online, right? Especially if they're, I don't know, I'd say new to being online, but probably no one listening is, because we've all been stuck at home since 2020. But yeah, I just think that being in person allows you to foster a stronger connection. And then you can use that to build up this ecosystem for your, I don't know, whatever it is, your program, your business, your offering.
Right. I also, when you were talking about building an ecosystem, what actually came to mind was finding people who complement your business.
Totally.
Not just like, hey, let's both market with like do like a marketing campaign with each other, but also having a relationship where you do something that I don't, so I can focus on that one thing that I'm really good at and I can profit off of that. But you build this ecosystem where, okay, now that you're ready for that next step, let me refer you to somebody that I partner with who's better at that than I am. And they can actually help you get you where you need to be. And then it's kind of sort of like passing people on to the next person in their ecosystem, whether that's a software or, a service.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, and that's, I think, why last year, maybe this year and last year, we saw a lot of requests come through for, can you give us a session for our online summit? Whereas now it's shifting into, do you want to come sponsor our live event?
I kind of actually want to add on to this idea, though, maybe not pivot, but I want to add on to this idea of doing stuff in person, mainly because of the, I don't really know how to say this. It wasn't really an epiphany, but how we were able to see people use our product live in person was so valuable than if we were to try to do it on Zoom, like in a screen share recording. It's totally different. And I think there's this element of like everything being organic and natural that really changed the game for me, at least in my perspective of, how do we move the company forward? Um, and that was customer research that I hadn't seen before because we've been remote for so long and because we've primarily talked to people on Zoom for so long. But we were able to have real conversations. And kind of to your point, Jackie, about meeting people live in person and then using that as a way to connect with them later on, of like, there was one woman, oh my gosh, I can't remember her name, but she wore the cutest sweaters each day. And like that was like a point of conversation, right? It was like, oh my gosh, like coming in with another cute sweater today. And just like that, like relationship building and having a presence, I think was really helpful and will probably like be, another reason why live
Yeah.
conferences and partnerships are going to really boom in the next year.
And so they're using these online summits to like cross their email lists, right? So everybody who's participating in the summit has a chance to access other people's email lists. So just going back to your point, Jess, of finding services or offerings or products or people who complement your service, it's a great way to grow your email list. So we saw in Nashville, ConvertKit came on the stage and they talked about their creator network. And so what they do is, me, Jackie, I launched my newsletter, and then all of my followers get to read that, obviously. But in the creator network, the network will also recommend other people that they might want to follow that match me for different reasons, which I think maybe you can set up within ConvertKit, or you can find at least partners in ConvertKit that you want to add to your ecosystem. So whether you're doing this online or you decide to move into in-person events where I think the connection, like we were saying, is just stronger, these are great ways to grow your email list. And if you're doing that, adding a quiz as your lead magnet to other audiences allows you to further segment them. So I don't know, I just wanted to call that out, that there's other ways of sharing your quiz than just being online, and or growing your email list, as opposed to just being able to find followers online. You can find them out there in the real world, and you can connect with people in the real world to help you do that too.
Yeah, I love that. This brings us backwards slightly because we had already talked about webinars, but I totally forgot about this earlier where, we have this shift heavily into video content now. And I wonder if that's why webinars are starting to really boom, is that shift into pure video content. My prediction is that it will play an even bigger role than it currently is. I don't know how it could get any bigger, but it will. I think SEO is slowly starting to move into purely YouTube. How do you get people to find you on YouTube, and how do the cross-channel references go to your other social medias like TikTok, Instagram, and so on, rather than before it was, written content, right? Like that was like the primary goal of like organic content. So my prediction is that video will start to play a really big role, I guess probably in webinars since that's coming back, but like, yeah, educational content, entertainment, like giving people options of all of that to view rather than just, here's a quick tutorial of how to change a tire.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I think, tying into what you're saying, prediction for 2024 of whoever's out there listening, I think that we've learned so much from this pandemic situation because primarily before, right, 2019,
Hmm.
a lot of the people that were going to these conferences and were going to these network events were very like type A people, right? Social, like not introverts, extroverts, like wanting to go out, meet people. And then we've come to realize, like during the pandemic, a lot of people had gotten us isolated, and some of those people really boomed, right? So then, like now, shifting to this market now, how do we cater both of those type of people? The people that
Hmm.
want to go out there and talk to people, social events, conferences, and really want that sort of like networking part, and then also the people that don't really necessarily like that, but would prefer to do like video webinar sort of thing. So it's like now it's like a combination of both of these things, which is amazing because it's like I feel like I was part of a social experiment for like 2 or 3 years, to be honest, because I was like, we've learned so much. It's insane, um, which prompts me the question to ask our audience, like, would it be helpful for Interact to do webinars down the road in 2024? Would that be something that you guys would like? So interestingly
Yeah,
enough, maybe we can tie it all in.
I
And what do you want
agree.
the webinar to be about?
Yeah.
Right, right. That kind of made me think of like another prediction around sort of authenticity and tying the two together of video and showing up in person, like, and like connection and everything is just that people want to see real people and they want to see real stories. And I think that's why webinars, video, and in-person things are going to start becoming more prevalent, is that you're showing your face, right? Like people are getting to know you as a person. And I feel like, I mean, I've been on Interact's videos for quite some time, and Jackie, like now you're doing a ton of videos. We're on this podcast, and I've talked to people in the past where they will hop on a call with me and they'll be like, I feel like I already know you because I've been watching your videos. And that's what people really crave and that's what they need. And so kind of tying those two together, Damaris, of video and in person, is I think like authenticity. Like people want to see the real stories, they want to get to know you as a person, they don't want to just buy things off of you if they don't know who you are. Like that plays a huge role.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
um I want to do the obvious prediction that I'm sure people probably saw coming towards the end of this episode, but AI. Like, I think AI is going to become mainstream next year. Everybody's going to implement it. They're all going to adopt it, and it'll become less scary than it was in January of 2023.
I also think a reason for that, Jess, is because people may like this year, I think was a year of testing and building out and growing AI and playing around with it. But a lot of that, especially for us, was on ChatGPT or within OpenAI. And when you're looking at that screen for the first time, it's literally like coding in a way because you're just staring at a blank space. You're typing in English or whatever language you speak, you're not using code, but if you don't know what to tell it or how to ask it what you want it to do, you're not going to get a great response. And then you're probably not going to use that response. And then you're going to think, okay, AI isn't for me. But tools like Interact AI, you never have to touch ChatGPT. You're literally filling out a form, which is easy. Anybody can do that. But then in the back end, AI is then turning that into an entire quiz for you. So I think that will have a lot to do with your prediction for next year of AI becoming more mainstream, because people are going to use it without necessarily even knowing that they're using it, like Grammarly, right? How long have we all been using Grammarly? That's essentially an AI model. And so I think just the ease of use is getting better because new products like Interact AI are coming out. And so they're easier tools to use than trying to teach yourself how to use ChatGPT.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree that it's going to be really it's going to be normalized in a way, and which is also why I think it ties into what our prediction was around video and like face-to-face events, is because we have so much information at our fingertips already. Like we can find out anything and everything in like 10 seconds. So what we're what's missing there is that connection piece, right? Like we're not connecting as at a human level. And so like, because we already have all this information, how do we then connect in in not only in businesses but personally? And so I think that's why having that sort of balance in of both these things will really be thriving in 2024. So it's going
And
to be super interesting.
yeah, and Damaris, and that can go into the type of content that you create too, right? Of like maybe you want to talk authentically about yourself and your interests so that you can connect with people who have those same interests. And then also you want to talk about your product and your services and how it works and the solutions that you help solve. So, and then, I mean, that even goes back into writing blogs versus doing podcasts versus recording videos, like going to live events. You should really be, even though these are the trends that we're predicting, you should really, I think, should be trying all of these things anyways to see what works best specifically for your business. And also, what do you enjoy doing the most? Because if making videos is too hard and too exhausting, then it's going to deplete other areas of your business if it just burns you out to make videos. So what other ways could you go to live in-person events instead of having to record yourself? Set up a camera in the corner, and then maybe you have like recorded videos of you chatting with people, right? Like I think there's a lot of different ways to make content. And with all of these trends coming out, there's a lot of opportunity for people to try new things based on what their audience prefers and based on what they like to do themselves as well.
Yeah. Well said, Jackie. Thank you for that.
I want to apologize if anyone hears my dog in the background because she wants to be a part of the podcast.
Okay.
But as you guys were talking, something that came to mind was, how people were probably already using AI, just not knowing. And I think the shift here is that now it is available for everybody to use for their own personal, whatever that is, whether it's like how to be more productive, like plan my day, plan my week, or, help me make my content creation faster and so on. And like, I guess where I'm going with this is that, the only way you can show the authenticity, which was one of my predictions, is if you are getting there faster. And I think AI will be the way to do that. And that's why everybody's going to make it as a part of their business.
Yeah.
I hope this isn't unrelated, but I want to say something about prompt design because just what you're saying is, I think maybe people struggle with using ChatGPT because they're trying to make it write the blog when really what you want to do is dump your authenticity into ChatGPT so it understands who you are, why you're like that, what you do, who you serve, how you help, right? And then let ChatGPT do all of the work of constructing it into a blog. Really, the information that you want to give AI is the content that you, I guess, like the topics that you want to talk about, like your explanations of certain things. So could you talk it out? Could you write it out? And then just use that as your inputs. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because that makes a good point. But I think one of the struggles this year of using AI was people were trying too hard to have it craft a perfect blog, but they weren't feeding it enough information of like, what should the blog be saying? What are the main points of your topic, right? But again, with UI and Interact AI coming out and making it in a form instead of just typing out, Jasper does something very similar. It's a lot easier to use. So you don't have to know that. It just asks you in the form, what are your main topics? What are you talking about? How do you feel about this? And then once you give that, it gives such a better output, making it easier to use.
Right. Like I think this year was a year, I mean, we've been building Interact AI all year. It's coming soon. Fingers crossed it comes sooner rather than later. But shout out to the engineering team, not trying to call you out. Like it's been built, right? So I think by next year, all of those products are going to come out, and now you're going to be able to use it for yourself in an easier way. So I guess that leads to, a prediction more so for Interact is with Interact AI coming out being public use. My prediction would be more lead generating quizzes put out on the internet for people to use, for customers to take. I think it's really gonna change the game for getting a quiz up and running much faster and easier than it was before.
And also, I think from coaching, a lot of people right away wanted to make multiple quizzes at the same time. And when you've never made a quiz before, that's extremely difficult. But with Interact AI, it will take you 5 minutes maybe to get the entire quiz put out for you, like added to your Interact account. So being able to test different versions of your quiz, different styles of your quiz, an assessment angle versus a knowledge test versus a personality angle, right? Will all be very interesting.
Do you guys think that with Interact AI being like publicly available for use, that it'll change the best practices for quizzes? Like what gets people to sign up?
From the customer's perspective side, I think that this is not marketing or partnerships, just to be clear, just customer side. I think that we'll just have to be more, what's the right word? Selective, or cater our customers in a different way than we've ever done before. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes companies evolve and grow from that. And I think that that's how you nurture and develop better relationships with people. And I'm excited for that. So I think that in that sense, I think it'll elevate the game.
Yeah, and maybe I was shaking my head no, because I think I misunderstood the question. I agree, Damaris. I think in terms of signups, it will absolutely help because it activates the customer that much faster. I mean, we literally took a 5-week coaching program and put it into, hey, fill out this form in 2 minutes and you'll have your quiz in your account done. Like that's a huge difference, and it's a what's the opposite of big? Way smaller ask than having them, hey, come in, test out a quiz. It's going to take you 5 weeks to build it, you know? So I think in that regard, yeah, it'll absolutely be a game changer. The reason I was shaking my head no is the strategies behind how you build your quiz and the types of questions you want to ask and what your quiz titles are will not change with AI. AI is just going to amplify that. We've put our strategy into Interact AI so that it builds whatever type of quiz you need. The strategy behind it isn't going to change. Just the way you make your quizzes will, because it'll be way faster.
I wonder if, in fact, it will actually help you personalize your quizzes even more because you'll have a starting point in less time. Right, like you'll be able to test faster. You'll be able to, send it to a couple of customers that you have a relationship with much faster, and they'll be able to give you feedback faster because it's done. And you'll be able to tweak it because you have that starting point through AI.
Yeah, and I think it also catches things that maybe you didn't necessarily think you would need to ask in your quiz. Like sometimes we see people who are too focused on segmentation questions that don't necessarily relate back to the final result, right? Like where are you in your business? How many courses have you paid for before in the past, right? Whereas now AI is doing all of the proper correlating or scoring, right, to get people to the right result. But then when you look at the quiz, you're like, oh, but I just want to ask this one other thing, And so you can still add that in, but your quiz is still going to work. It's still going to get people to the right result. So yeah, I agree. I think they're easier to customize because you're not starting with a blank screen. It's for me, I think for a lot of people, it can be so frustrating to start with a blank screen and know in your head where you want to go, but not be able to find the words to take you there. And that's what Interact AI does. So it's been a lot of fun building it out. I'm really excited for it to fully launch to be customer facing.
Excited.
Happy dance, Damaris. Yes, keep going.
Yeah, and that will also like sort of amplify we're looking at our own product and like how we're gonna evolve and like help our customers at a different level at that point. And so like that's what we're here for. Just 2024 is the year of growth.
I want to say that I was thinking about this morning that there she is. I was thinking this morning about how this year was, after the pandemic and all that stuff, it was like a year of sort of learning how to rest and kind of get out of that hustle culture. But next year, now that we know that part, how to take breaks, it'll be a year of growth, like with those breaks already like planned into the year.
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Well,
Let's go.
guys, thank you so much for running through. I know making predictions for trends is so hard, and you're like, I don't even know if I know what trends are happening, but you did. So, if you guys are out there listening and you have your own predictions, email us, let us know what you think. If you have any questions about Interact AI, feel free to reach out about that as well. You can also head over to ai.tryinteract.com, fill out the form for yourself, and get a quiz today. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.